theory of frozen universe, Einstein, space-time, relativity, reinterpretation. Let's see first what about the space-time scientists gonna tell us.
Depending on the scale. And so you put matter and it warps space-time. And so if I have another object, it also warps space-time. They feel that and they're attracted to each other. And so that's Einstein's picture of gravity. Objects warp space-time, feel that curvature, and move accordingly. And if you have more mass, right there. If you have more mass, it's going to bend space-time more. And so if you have objects here.
So that's basically all what we need to know. What we see here in case of mass increase, we have bigger distortion and space expands. So if that's a space-time fabric, then mass needs to have influence on space and on time. In the case of mass increase, we see bigger distortion, so space expands, and time must need to have influence on time as well. Time slows. That's according to Einstein because of stronger gravity force. So in the case of mass increase, space expands, time slows. In the case of mass decrease, distortion gets lower, and as effect we got space contracts and time accelerates, because of course lower gravity, not slowing, time is not slowed by gravity, so time is accelerated. So in the case of mass decrease, time accelerates and space of course contracts. Mistakes which they did in that in analysis on the movie is that somebody assumed that the space-time is flat and stretched from the beginning, and only eventually some mass can make a distortion. But that's like a problem, because they assume that not only the fabric is constant, but it was already set by someone. The proper analysis of the movie should be that if there is no mass, actually all that fabric supposed to be contracted to one point, shouldn't be stretched as it showed, as the movie shows, and only then it's minimal mass, and only in a case of mass when mass occurs, then we got the stretch, and then the space and time comes to existence. So that's like a very clear mistake, that the space-time is already stretched and only can be only distorted a little bit. And here we have first consequence of those very simple assumptions. Universe expansion can be very easily explained as a macro effect, can be very easily explained only by the curvature issues and distortions. Low mass, low distortion, big mass, big distortion. So we can delete very easily dark energy idea and dark matter idea. Dark energy idea we can delete because of course the science claims that the dark energy is responsible for pushing out the galaxies and some mysterious energy which nobody of course seen and detected. But we don't need to create any dark energy. We just need to know that concentrating mass in the course of the galaxies causes bigger distortion, and of course the space expands, as Frozen main assumption says. So that's an effect of the wave stretching, the redshift which galaxies spectrum of light we observe. It's moved to the redshift, so redshift means that the wave is stretched, so that can be like that example that the wave is stretching, and dark matter don't have to be created as well. We can just delete it, because it's of course a little bit similar to Einstein ideas that putting objects on speed gonna cause its mass increase. Of course, more if you have more huge amount of mass, that's going to be like plenty a lot of energy to put that on the movement. So higher mass we got, actually lower speed is needed for its mass increase, and it's not only the relative increase as Einstein says, but it's a real increase. So more speed, more energy, more gravity effect, more mass, more curvature. And that's a wave expansion, space expansion. That's the same as stretching. Sun expansion can be also very easily explained by curvature. The same effect, of course. Mass concentrates in the core and creates bigger distortion, which is space expansion. So standard models tells us that at the stage of red giant, in the core, temperature rises so much that the rests of the hydrogen here, they have like as well dramatic. There is like a dramatic temperature increase here. That means the pressure. Temperature is a pressure, but suddenly they say that actually on the outside dramatically temperature decreases. So very strange, like a two opposite paradox, little bit of there's like a paradox in it. Frozen says very easily that concentrating mass in a core causes bigger distortion, space expands, and then as a fact we see the rest of the hydrogen are spread out on a much higher area, and that's why the spectrum of light goes into the redshift, and tiny amounts of hydrogen on wider area that equals temperature drop, and that's why the redshift, that's frozen proposal, and that's the standard model. Also, Earth run away from Sun and Moon from the Earth as well can be easily explained only by the curvature issues. No, frozen, very simple explanation that the same effect of mass distortion. More mass, more concentrated mass causes more space. That's why slowly mass concentrates slowly in the core, and that's why slowly Earth is moving away and the Moon away from because the whole space around is slowly expanding. Science, they have like a plenty different explanation. One of the explanation is that the sun emits. That's why because sun emits the light, it losing energy, some plasma explosions as well, and that's why the lower mass here causes runaway of the Earth. Yeah, but they don't say anything about the core, which actually gravity of the sun should be like a stronger, because the core is much heavier and causes more gravity. Also, they explain the moon ran away from the Earth by the tides, but this is also a little bit strange, because even if in the first phase moon pulls the tide and slows a bit the Earth later rotation, when the tide is falling down, it pushes and supposed to accelerate a bit as well, but it's like a little strange explanation for me. As well, we can delete inflation and Big Bang idea only by the curvature, same curvature effect. Basically, Frozen doesn't say that there's something banged and then suddenly spread out everything on very equal. that's supposed to be the observation of the same temperature should be Big Bang. Dismiss actually, because nothing much to the observation, but they provide the inflation theory. Okay, but Frozen says very simply that basically on the beginning there was no bang, but there was like a soup of the particles, and they started to concentrate, and that was like a first galaxies, and then the galaxies, what we see here, of course, the same phenomenon in the cores. Mass concentrates, so we got the bigger distortion, space creation, space expands for mass increases, so they not only moving away from us, from the Earth, but they moving away from each other. And we don't need to provide an inflation and Big Bang idea. It's not necessary. It looks like it's false in that case. What else? Those simple assumptions, curvature issues explains the matrix bullet time effect for insects. Very simply can be explained, of course, that for insects time is accelerated and space contracted. Science explains that phenomenon by shorter connections in smaller brains that they causes that effect according to them. Also the same for the little mass, little distortion for bacteria, speed processes, cell processes inside, which are very, very quick, short time of life as well, quick reproduction because of the size and mass of the bacteria, so its time is accelerated. That was a macro scale, and for the micro scale, microscale can be very easily as well explained by the curvature issues. Frozen reveals and explains basic laws of quantum nature, says mysterious and misunderstanding are effects of time acceleration as well as space contraction, same issues, lower curvature. That basically the quantum world is living on a contracted space and in accelerated environment. So, for example, EPR paradox, that the particles behave like there is no space between them. Some scientists, the most bizarre behavior they can ever imagine, which cannot be explained in any way. That's very simply explained by the space contracted and accelerated and speed of atom vibrations as well, 9 billion times a second. Imagine just a solar system with the planet spinning around 9 billion times a second because of the time acceleration. And of course the Heisenberg when he gonna see here, the electron gonna be everywhere, gonna be spontaneously show up in here, whenever. Electronic existence, quantum computers, instant communication on distance. That's electronics is possible only because of that property that we just see that electronic world, quantum world, atomic world, it advances us in time. That's why it can be so quick. That's why we see all those instant in a second, all those behaviors there, which allows to build actually the electronic quantum computer. That's going to be the next step. And then communication, instant communication at huge distances. Now, science explanations for the micro scale are very, very strange. Like fantasy movies, multiverses, some m dimensions, 10, 11 dimensions, but 7 or 8 of them is hidden and only 3 are visible. No, very, very strange. Also, theory of frozen universe unites 4 forces of universe: gravity, electromagnetism, weak forces and strong forces, as well by the same curvature effect. The same phenomenon, downward mass forces accelerates, the effect is multiplied on a shorter space. So electromagnetism is such a strong force because it's multiplied and so short, because on a short on a short space, and same here, strong forces that it's even much more accelerated, and on the shorter, that's why multiplied so many times, that is very strong force. Delays also time as a fourth dimension. What science says, the time is a loaf of bread of events. Frozen says differently. Frozen says time is a part of the gravity. Property of time is acceleration, deceleration. Space, Frozen says space is also a gravity. Property of space is contraction and expansion. Expansion is actually pumping balloon around the mass, more mass, bigger the. So here we're gonna see how was the differences between the science. Frozen says time is a property of the curvature dependent of gravity field. Lower curvature is accelerated because it's not slowed by the gravity. More gravity, more distortion is slowed by gravity. Science says that the time is separate dimension, like a loaf of bread. Every piece of events here, you can come back from the future to the past, and blah blah blah. Space in Frozen is property of curvature. That's like a gravity field around the mass. That's the space, basically. Space dependent of mass. The space is the distortion, and that's the space. More distortion of fabric, space expansion. And science, what says here? Science says not only is dimensional flat for all the objects, but they say it's like a box into every direction to infinity, and the universe is in that box, and actually at the same time it's space for them is completely flat. Idea of frozen universe explains also the unity between the space and time originally proposed by Einstein, as well by curvature effect. So basically more distortion of fabric, that's a slower time rate, yeah, and expanded space, that means the longer travel for the object. Less distortion on fabric, accelerated time rate, and at the same time contracted space, that means shorter, quicker distance to pass. Science explains that unity by two ways going in the same direction, like Brian Greene on the movie, blah blah blah. As well explains what Frozen Universe explains what the gravity is. That the gravity is a particle smaller even than the light, living on a contracted, so that space which is created here for the graviton is contracted, and time so accelerated that it gives the effect that the gravity is in every place, in every momentum, and the reaction is instant, like graviton on lower curvature. And also the idea joins this frozen universe, like unifies all the factors of mass, gravity, space, time, and speed. It says that the mass is a gravity, is a space, is a time, and also for every mass is only some speed limit is set, but that's going to be the other explanation about the Einstein theory of relativity. But basically that's it.